You know how we do when we have funky music in our ear. We get to writing, ain't no fighting, we just in there trying to win. Ooh yeah, la-di-da, we grinding hard. Ooh yeah, we not gonna stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too late to turn back now. I got work to do. On a mission, by my business, I'm pushing through.
This upcoming weekend, there's going to be a lot of big games. This is going to be one of the best weekends in college football for this season. There's so many ranked teams playing, so I'm just going to go through a couple of the matchups, and I just give my picks on who I think is going to win. I could give a score prediction, but I'm not going to. Maybe for a couple of them, but I just want to give my picks on who I think is going to win. First, we have a ACC matchup. We have Clemson and North Carolina playing. North Carolina, atrocious. North Carolina looks horrible. They were one of the teams originally that was picked to go to the ACC championship game. They were picked to come out of the Atlantic, but right now they look horrible. I'm not sure what Larry Fedora is doing. I'm not sure what the defensive coordinator is doing. I'm not sure what the offensive coordinator is doing. I'm not sure what the athletic director is doing. But North Carolina looks bad right now. Clemson is a good team. Deshaun Watson, the freshman phenom superstar for Clemson, is the real deal. I believe he threw for 6 touchdowns last week. He looks to be the real deal. Mind you, this is the same freshman that came in at Doak Campbell Stadium against Florida State and had a very good game. I mean, they lost the game, but he had a very good game. Had over 250 passing yards. So my pick is for Clemson to torch North Carolina. Just maul them. Remind you, ECU put up 70 points on North Carolina. So I fully expect Clemson with their high-power offense to get close. To get close to there at least 50, 60, 70 points. That's one of those games where it's called name your own score because North Carolina can't stop anybody. We have Bama and Ole Miss playing. That is a SEC West top 10 matchup. Alabama powerhouse, Ole Miss trying to come up. Have kind of been a middle of the pack team to lower end team. They've had some great recruiting lately. As we know, they got Robert Kendechi, who was the #1 DN coming out of high school. So they have some weapons. I'm interested to see how they're going to play Alabama. Ole Miss has a legit defense. Like, their defense is very good, but Ole Miss just played Memphis and they look bad. Memphis's defense shut down Ole Miss's offense for the most part. Ole Miss came out with the win, but you know what? Maybe they're not as strong as some people thought, but you know what? Everybody can have a bad game looking forward to a bigger game. So was that what they were doing, or are they just not as good as advertised? But you know what? We'll find out on Saturday, because this is the same Alabama team that destroyed Florida. Speaking of that, Florida gave up the most yards they have ever given in program history to Alabama. So this Alabama team looks to be the real deal. So we'll see how that matchup plays out. We have Oklahoma and TCU playing. The spread for this game is not that big. The spread for this game is under a touchdown. I like Oklahoma to win, but you know what? TCU always plays tough defense. Their coach, Patterson, always has his defense ready to play. Even if their offense is a little shaky from time to time, their defense always comes ready to play. So I want to see how they're going to play Oklahoma, because Oklahoma, Trevor Knight at quarterback, the high-flying offense that they have, I'm curious to see how it plays out, strength against strength. But I think Oklahoma's going to pull that game out in the end. We have Florida State and Wake Forest playing. I don't know if you watched Wake Forest and their offense play this year, or their team play. But if you haven't seen them play, you're lucky, because they're horrible. Wake Forest, statistically speaking, has probably one of the worst offenses of all time in the ACC. They're bad. They're averaging. Everything's just so low. They're averaging, the starting running back is averaging maybe 3 yards per carry. they're averaging 130 something yards per game. The only thing that's even giving them a chance to stay in the games is their defense is okay, but their offense is horrible. Oh, it's bad. Their guard play is bad. Their offensive line play, their quarterback. I mean, they're young. He's a true freshman. You know, they have some young guys playing on the offensive line, so they're getting pushed into the quarterback each play. The Florida State spread for this game is 38 points. Florida State's going to cover that fairly easily. Florida State will cover that even with backups in. So that's my pick for that game. Is pretty simple. It should be anybody's pick out there that watches football. LSU and Auburn. Like I said, LSU isn't looking like the traditional powerhouse that they've usually been. I'm actually going to go with Auburn in this game. I'm a fan of Auburn's offense. Nick Marshall, you know what? Some games he plays like a superstar, i.e. the national championship game where he was hitting receivers left and right in between tight coverage. And then he plays games where they played against K-State, and he looked like the worst quarterback in America. I mean, physically gifted kid, runs a 4.3, great. They have a great coach in Malzahn. I love their offense, how hard it is to stop. But you know what? They have some work to do. But I think they're going to get on track, and I think they're going to beat LSU. I would say they would give them a run. And I think in the end, if they get everything on track like I think they would, I think they'll win by a couple touchdowns because, like I said, LSU is just not as good this year as they have been in the past. They still have Leonard Fournette at running back, the freshman phenom. But you know what? If they have to pass the game, if they have to pass in the game to come back from being down, what good is he going to do? If the offensive line's not blocking for him, what is he going to do? So I have Auburn to win that game. We have Miami versus Georgia Tech. At first thought you think, Georgia Tech triple option. Miami, Georgia Tech is good. Georgia Tech is pretty legit this year. The ACC is all over the place right now. I mean, obviously, in their division, Florida State and Clemson are the cream of the crop. But you have the other division. You have, Virginia Tech. You have Duke. You have Miami. You have Georgia Tech. Who knows who's going to come? Who knows who's going to emerge as the front runner? So I think that's going to be a very close game. UM's defense has been struggling a little bit this year. So I'm actually going to go with Georgia Tech to beat Miami in this game. I think they're going to wear their defense down, and by the time you get to that third, fourth quarter time and that defense is tired from being on the field so long, you just start running it down their throats. If they can get some pressure on the freshman quarterback and don't give him a chance to get the ball to his playmakers, Stacy Coley out there, receiver, and other players, Herb Waters, if he can't get the ball to him, they're not going to be able to do anything, and Georgia Tech's going to kill your defense. Having Nebraska and Michigan State, it's going to be an interesting game. Like I said, the Big Ten sucks this year for the most part. But Nebraska has Amir Abdullah, who is a Heisman frontrunner. That kid is the truth. At running back, he's an amazing running back. He deserves all the accolades he's getting right now. He definitely deserves to be mentioned up there with the elite cream of the crop running backs. He's up there with Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon. So he definitely deserves it. The kid is amazing. I want to see how this game plays out. Michigan State's, they're built around their defense. So Michigan State's defense, Nebraska's offense, Abdullah versus Michigan State's defense. How's that going to play out? I think in the end that Michigan State's going to be a little bit too much. They've recruited better lately. They have some better players. So I'm going to go with Michigan State to beat Nebraska in a close one. We have Florida and Tennessee playing. As I mentioned, UF looked horrible against Alabama. Alabama did what they wanted to. In the beginning of the game, they passed for 80, 90-yard bombs. In the second half of the game, they ran it down their throats. So has Muschamp gotten Florida's defense right, which is usually their strength? Their offense isn't that good. Jeff Driscoll is not the man at quarterback that they need. If you watch NC State play Florida State and you saw Jacoby Brissett out there passing for over 300 yards against Florida State, breaking sacks, got out of at least 6 sacks running around making plays while he's falling down on his back, you know what you realize? You realize that Florida made the wrong choice. Florida went with Jeff Driscoll over Jacoby Brissett. Florida went with Jeff Driscoll over Jacoby Brissett. Jacoby Brissett he's looked great this year. Jeff Driscoll hasn't looked good his entire time at Florida. You know, I don't know what they did in practice that made it so different to where that decision didn't come out right. But you know what? You have Driscoll, so that's your man. You have to ride with him. Tennessee's going to win this game. Florida's offense is inept and they can't get it together. Their running game looks decent at times. Their passing game looks horrible, as expected. Jeff Driscoll's a quarterback, so I'm not sure what they're going to do. Jeff Driscoll's a good runner, but you know what? You have to be able to pass the ball. I'm going to go with Tennessee to win this game. Tennessee is the same team that was 18-point underdogs to Georgia and gave them a run down to the very end of the game and only lost by, I believe, 4 points it was. Those are my picks for the week on those big games. I also just want to throw out a couple of hot seat coaches right now. As we know, Charlie Weis got fired. Charlie Weis should have never been hired. Charlie Weis has been bad at every stop in college he's been at. He was bad as the head coach of Notre Dame. They weren't good. He was bad as the offensive coordinator at Florida. They weren't good under him. And you know what? He was bad at Kansas. His record was 6-22. 6-22. I don't understand how this man keeps getting head coaching jobs in college. Offensive coordinator in the NFL, he's great. Look what he did with the Chiefs. Look what he did when he was with the Patriots. But apparently, he can't get it right as a head coach in college, so hopefully nobody else will give him a head coaching job, and he can just become a coordinator and make plenty of money and do what he's best at. But he's just not good. Brady Hoke from Michigan. Michigan's horrible. I don't know what Brady Hoke's thinking. Brady Hoke doesn't seem like he's always there. I don't think he understands how bad his team actually is. And you can't just I understand you can't throw them under the bus in front of the media, but you have to be realistic. Like, there's some stuff going on. On top of how bad his team is and how you have alumni, fans, boosters calling for his head, he has the issue where the quarterback gets a concussion in the game and they let him play again. And there's a disconnect on the sidelines with the booth, on the sideline with the coaching staff. You can't let that happen. And with the way concussions are nowadays, you have to be on top of that. So Brady Hoke as a coach needs to take responsibility, but he also needs to take responsibility for this team and how horrible they are. Brady Hoke's not even on the hot seat. Brady Hoke will be fired somewhere between now and the end of the season. Hopefully they'll get rid of him soon so they can start looking towards the future. And that's it. Like I said before about Al Golden possibly being on the hot seat. We'll see how things play out the rest of the season, but if they lose to Georgia Tech, he's going to be right back on the hot seat. Miami doesn't have enough money to fire him and pay out his contract, so you know what? If you want to get rid of Al Golden, sorry, he'll be there at least another year or two. This is Nicholas Austin Holiday with Between Classic Sports. I'll see you next week.
You know how we do when we have funky music in our ear. We get to writing, ain't no fighting, we just in there trying to win. Ooh yeah, la-di-da, we grinding hard. Ooh yeah, we not gonna stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too late to turn back now. I got work to do. On a mission, by my business, I'm pushing through, no slacking. Make it happen, we grinding hard, we grinding hard. You know how we do when we have funky music in our ear. We get to writing, ain't no fighting, we just in there trying to win. Ooh yeah, la-di-da, we grinding hard. Ooh yeah, we not gonna stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too late to turn back now. I got work to do. On a mission, by my business, I'm pushing through, no slacking. Make it happen, we grinding hard, we grinding hard. You know how we do when we have funky music in our ear. We get to writing, ain't no fighting, we just in there trying to win. Ooh yeah, la-di-da, we grinding hard. Ooh yeah, we not gonna stop. Yeah, 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 yeah. Too late to turn back now. I got work to do. On a mission, by my business, I'm pushing through, I'm pushing.